Thanks for checking out this episode. We talk about 2-3 zone offense. And if you've been listening to the Coach's Edge podcast for a long time, man, we certainly appreciate you. If you're checking us out on YouTube, something new for 2022, I just decided we're going to put a bunch of stuff up on YouTube. We might put a podcast audio recording with the video up on YouTube. We might put a 90-second drill up on YouTube. We might put a 30-second clip of something with no audio at all, but it's just breaking down how to do a specific drill or move. We're going to put a bunch of stuff up there because there's enough people that follow us on different types of sites. Hey, why not just continue that and spread the love and throw some things on YouTube as well. As we dig into this specific episode and really break down some 2-3 zone offense notes, the reason that I'm coming out with it right now is because as the season goes along, it's easy for us as basketball coaches to add. We see something that's not working that well, or we see something that is, we say, hey, let's make this a little bit better. Let's make this tweak. Those things are good. Oh, let's try something brand new. And sometimes that can come back to bite us because really, if we throw something in that's that brand new at a later date in the season, that means we're not giving our kids a great chance to really get really good at that and perfect that as we head into the most important part of the season with sectional play, district play, region play, your postseason tournament, whatever that might look like. So I want to simplify this and give you some 2-3 zone offense notes that I think can be really beneficial for your team, for your program to think about. And although we're talking 2-3 zone, I think a lot of these will apply to other zone offenses as well. So 2 main questions to ask yourself first: who do I want where? And what do I want them doing with the ball and without the ball? Those are fundamental questions for you to ask yourself within your offense. So I'll repeat that. Who do you want where? And what do you want them doing with the ball and without the ball going against this 2-3 zone? We can answer those 2 questions. Now we're starting to slowly develop a little bit of a plan. Once we've done that, what are some of the common principles that we want to use to attack the 2-3 zone? D2, draw 2 defenders, or even more than that if we can. We can do that with the basketball by catching it within a gap. We can do that with a dribble drive, attacking a gap, soft spot of the defense. We can also do that by getting in certain high level areas that are dangerous that the opponent doesn't want us to get in, even when we don't have the basketball. We're drawing multiple defenders. And if you're thinking about who your best players are and your more dangerous players, is there a spot where you can put them in these positions so that they can open up opportunities for other people? Or are there certain locations within a 2-3 zone that you might put a player in one of those spots as a decoy? They're going to draw multiple defenders, even though they're not one of your more dangerous players. That's going to open things up for your shooters and for some of your scorers. So 1, D2, draw 2 defenders. Number 2, we want to be a player. When I see a lot of 2-3 zone, what I see is a lot of Statue of Liberty type movements coming from my friend, Coach Troshak. You get the basketball, we just kind of hold it up above our head, and we're not a player, right? You're not a threat to really drive it, to pull it. You're just standing there. You're usually not in a position where you'd even pull it anyway, and the defense doesn't have to guard you. Basically, those 5 defenders can guard the 4 other players who don't have the basketball because you're not a threat. So when you catch the basketball, be a player. Be ready to rip it, be ready to drive it, be ready to pull it, catch it in a spot where you can do damage. And even if you're not going to do something super dangerous, look like it. Look like it. Catch it. Get in a wide base. Be athletic. Rip it strong. Jab, right? Look the court. Look like you have some presence about yourself in how you're playing the game. And then the third thing that we want to really understand is we got to get to the paint. We can get to the paint off a dribble drive. We can get to the paint through cuts. We can get to the paint off post entries. We can get to the paint off of high post entries. But we have to get to the paint, especially against zone. The defense can contract. When we get the basketball inside, the defense is going to contract. We get the basketball back out, defense expands. And then if a really good team will get the defense to rotate. So I like to say an average to above average team can go inside out. But a high level team goes inside, outside, and then rotates the basketball. And anytime we can get the defense in man or zone to contract, expand, and start to rotate and shift as they're expanding out, which is really being able to get inside, get outside, and then get a quick ball rotation. That's that one more pass. That's where really good teams start to do some damage. But it starts with being able to get the basketball inside. There's many different ways to do it. We have to make sure that we are doing that. Now, as we think about our players, the positions that we want them in, the things that we want them doing with and without the basketball, and we understand some of the main principles that we want to have, let's think a little bit about our personnel when it comes to attacking a zone. I think you have your playmaker / creator type. They are responsible for somewhat quarterbacking the game. Now, this doesn't have to be your point guard necessarily or your best ball handler necessarily. A lot of times it is. But as we see at other levels, think of even a Jokic for the Denver Nuggets. He's basically the point guard, even though he's the biggest player on the team. And he doesn't necessarily break down and create the game based on his ball handling ability, but he does it through where he catches the basketball, a lot of stuff in the high post area, right? That's a dangerous spot. And then through his ability to pass with how great he is using a pivot, he's a threat. And he can run the offense basically from that position. So we have our playmaker type position. We have our inside dunker finisher type position. A lot of times against the 2-3 zone, this is in your dunker spot, right? Meaning my heels are along the baseline. My chest is facing up the court. And really, I'm ready to step in and meet that pass. If it's a high-low action, I'm stepping in, dunker spot, right? College level players are going to be able to take that and jam it. But being able to catch the basketball without even dribbling, meet the pass, strong wide base, go up strong and finish it is a great way to score on the zone. But also it's a great location to catch the basketball and then run cutters through. I think back when we were running a 1-3-1 in Ohio, and one of the best ways that other teams attacked us was to be able to put somebody in that dunker spot, that heel up position in the short corner where the basketball would go there. And very rarely was that player the one who was actually trying to score, but they would get the basketball there. And then they'd start to run cutters through, kind of some Buffalo type post screens. And then players are coming through, high post, low post coming through, being able to hit that little dump down pass or kick it back out for threes was a really effective way to attack our 1-3-1 zone defense. So we need that inside presence, that finisher or playmaker type that can be there and orchestrate. And then another position that we need is a shooter. We need players that can shoot it, right? And so that could be people that are getting open through actions. They're getting open through specific plays, popping out, coming off screens. They can get open through flooding an area, right? Which is one of my favorite ways to get a good shot, especially against zone, is really flooding the same spot. And you see Steph Curry do this against man all the time, where if he's dribble driving in the paint and he kicks it to the corner, and then he runs back to that same corner, player with the ball will take 1 or 2 dribbles and just shovel it back to him. Steph Curry goes right behind him, boom, and he gets a wide open three. That works a lot against zone. The importance for our shooters to be able to continue their movement, to be able to flood certain spots, overload certain spots with multiple players is a great way for us to be able to attack a 2-3 zone type defense. Now, let's touch base on a couple more things. Playmaker doesn't have to be the point guard, and it doesn't have to be playmaking from above the court, right? But this is the player within our team who helps set the table for everybody else. We really need one of those. Great teams have a couple. We have our heel up, our post type finisher player who's more so in the dunker spot, they can duck in. They're in a position to offensive rebound. It's great to run the offense through that player by making the game simple. They may not be a full creator type, but being able to get the basketball to them in a short corner and then run cutters through, we can run some screen actions, is a great way to attack it. And then we've talked a little bit about the shooter already. Now, offensive rebounding is one of the biggest ways that you can attack a 2-3 zone. So that's what I want to touch base on next. Now, because there's no specific matchup at any given time in the 2-3, and because you may have certain spots in the 2-3 where you have multiple offensive players compared to the amount of defensive players, it's a weakness within that zone many times where we need to take advantage of that. If you see the back of somebody's head against man or zone, you need to go and get it. Secondly, because of the rotations and the movements within especially a lot of zone defense compared to man-to-man defense, there's going to be times where it's easier for the offensive player to actually be in an inside position from the defensive player. So let's think boxing out, reverse engineer it. The offensive player can be the one that boxes out the defensive player when a shot goes up, especially when you're playing in a 2-3 zone. And then we talked a little bit about flooding a spot to get open shooters. You can flood a spot when it comes to offensive rebounding, right? Most shots that are missed are going weak side wing. Then they'll generally go up top. And I've seen the statistics where teams that shoot a little more threes, those rebounds are more likely to bounce off kind of between the elbow areas up top. Teams that don't shoot quite as many, those rebounds end up being a little bit more towards the opposite, to the weak side. But regardless, if we can flood multiple offensive rebounders against a smaller amount of defensive players, the numbers add up in our favor, and we're going to be able to get some second chance baskets. Okay. Now, as we continue to roll on, there's a couple things that I want you to think about specifically with attacking a 2-3 zone. And I say all these things because Coach Troshak and myself are putting together, I wouldn't call it a full 2-3 zone offense course, but we're putting together presentations with our Coach's Edge members so that this spring we'll really be able to dig in with presentation, with some video example, with some court diagrams to really show all of our Coach's Edge members, what we're talking about within this podcast and much, much more. A few ways that we can attack a screen as we finish out the pod. Being able to get the basketball short corner, as we talked about already, great way to do it. If you can put that player there that can finish, they can make good decisions. They can look for a diver who's coming down and are smart enough to know, hey, I have an advantage. And so maybe they can pull and hit that shot, or one dribble and they're all the way to the rim. Really effective. Screening the zone. If we can screen the 5 and then run cutters through, that's my favorite spot to screen a 2-3 zone. And a lot of times it's a misdirection, or it is a false screen, right? Where somebody's coming and you're technically screening, but you're really just posting up. You're trying to seal the 5, and then boom, you run another cutter through into the middle of the zone. That's very, very effective. Another one, I'm a big fan of ball screen in the zone. When I was playing basketball in Germany, we rarely played against 2-3 zone, but when we did, we had one motion offense. Now we're playing with a 24-second clock. So there were different variations within this 2-3 zone offense, but basically everything we did against 2-3 was based off of this one motion that we had. And within this motion, there were multiple ball screens against the top of the zone. And because we had 4 to 5 guys out on the court every time that could shoot threes, if we set an inside ball screen, so we're able to attack the inside and the top of the 2-3 and make the other player who's on the first line of the 2-3 be able to even pay any attention to shifting over, a couple different things were going to happen. If nobody guarded me coming off the ball screen, right? I can get in the paint, you can make a 15-foot pull up. If it's a little deeper back, you just come into the middle and you're popping a three, right? And so usually defense is taking away that, right? That's pretty simple to take away that. But because you're doing that, it's very easy to be able to come off that middle ball screen on a 2-3 zone, be able to, let's say I'm on the right side of the court, come off the middle of the ball screen, come into my left towards the top of the key, defensive player comes over to help, boom, I can kick the basketball to the wing. Now, if I kick the basketball to the wing and it's a shot right there, they're pulling it for a three, right? But because on the opposite side, we've probably overloaded the weak side because that's what the side we're coming to make it the strong side, coming off the ball screen. And if I go wing with my pass and that player doesn't have a shot because the bottom of the 2-3 zone has had to help up enough, boom, then it's a quick pass down to the corner. We got a corner three. That's a great option. Now, on the other side of that, I just came off a ball screen, correct? So if I come off the ball screen and my big who set the ball screen is picking and popping back to the spot that I just came from, that's another opportunity that, so my defender who originally started with me on my matchup, as I'm coming off that ball screen, if they're still staying tight to me, the person who set the screen for me can pop, and they can pop really to any open spot. If they go too far back to the wing, maybe that's too close to the bottom line of the defender in the corner of the 2-3 zone. So they're just going to literally flood or fill whatever the open spot is. And if I'm drawing that side, that defender as I'm coming middle, boom, I'm hitting them and they're open for a pick and pop, catch and shoot three. And as the same time, if we have a player in that corner, the same thing applies. If I come off a middle ball screen and I kick it back to the wing or to that seam area for a pick and pop, and if the bottom line of the 2-3 zone really has to step up and help to take away that three, boom, that's a quick hit to the corner, and that player's got a wide open three. All right. But it all starts because we're using a ball screen. You can probably tell I was a point guard because I could talk about ball screen options all day. Now, a couple other ones, screening and flooding a certain spot. Anytime where we're putting multiple offensive players in one spot. Most basic example is, let's say we have a guy in the post or the short corner who's a shooter, and then we have somebody in the corner. And that corner player simply slowly steps in slightly so that they're setting a screen on the corner defender. And then that post player, that short corner player, just steps right behind them into the corner, and we can hit there for a three. There's essentially two players in one spot. Right? One of them is going to be open off of a simple action like that. It's a good way to screen and flood the same spot. Any type of buffalo type screen where we're hitting the middle, or then the middle can be the driver and kick out to different shooters is really effective. And if you can get somebody who plays well out of the high post, really good things can happen. Oftentimes we put a player who's uncomfortable at the high post there. It doesn't matter if they're a big. Put your point guard, put your smallest player in there. Whoever's going to be comfortable in there to be able to be a threat, to drive, to shoot, to kick, and is also a threat to go high-low with their passing is a great player to put in that position. It should be a skilled player who has a high basketball IQ, and they can do some damage, right? So let's review those four basic concepts. Ways to attack a 2-3, right? You can play through the short corner. That was one. Two, we talked about screens. I talked a lot about ball screens, but we also mentioned a screen in the middle, which is great. Screening and flooding a certain area is also a great option. Number three, we talked about being able to buffalo screen and really puncture the middle of the zone. And that middle can then be for a drive and kick out to a shooter. It can really be somebody who's drawing middle, and then that's essentially a misdirection so that the defense has to contract, as we talked about before, and then we can get the basketball back out. And then the fourth one is put a playmaker at the high post. Regardless of their position or size, putting a playmaker there is a great one. And then how can we start to apply some of these things into our practice? Man, I was at a practice, was it last week, and helping a team out as they're getting ready for the tournament. And we went 12 guys on the team. So we went 4-on-4-on-4, and we had them play against a 2-2 zone, and we had them play against a 1-2-1 zone. And we just talked about some of the concepts that I've mentioned to you as far as how to break that down. And so it was super competitive. We had 12 players essentially playing at a time. So team in the middle goes down. Hey, for this game, we're going to 7. We're playing against the 2-2 zone. Here's some of the things we've talked about applying. And if you score, you take it down against the other 4 on the other end. If you miss, then the defense gets to take it. You become the defender. First team to 7 wins, right? Play a couple games there. Okay, let's play against a 1-2-1 zone. Let's bring the top defender in the 1-2-1 zone all the way up to half court, right? To simulate maybe some 1-2-2 pressure or a 1-3-1 type pressure. But we're really breaking it down into 4-on-4 so that the kids can easily see some of these openings, some of these strategies, and some of the spacing that they can use. And it was a great learning tool for some of our guys to continue to say, oh, that's what I see coaches was talking about. And then you build it into playing some 5-on-5. So that's a little bit of how we can think about attacking the 2-3 zone, whether it's making sure that our players are in the right spots, that our players understand their role, what they're supposed to do with and without the basketball, understanding some of those common principles of trying to draw multiple players, being a player, being a threat when you catch the basketball, right? Just don't hold it up or don't kind of hip it where you have in one hand. And then understand it is so important against any type of zone to get the basketball in the paint, hunt the paint with the cut, with the dribble, with the catch. And then we can really be able to share the sugar and get it out. Understanding those main concepts of getting the defense to contract, expand, and shift real quick is a great way to do some damage against the zone and any type of defense. So I hope that this helped you out. If it did, like, subscribe, rate, review. That goes a really long way, especially with the podcast. And there's not a whole lot of ways for people to track and see what a good podcast is. Really, ratings are the only way to do it. And so if you leave a positive rating, especially if you're listening on Apple, would be really, really cool. And for you guys sticking with us and watching on YouTube, that would be awesome. We appreciate you guys as well. A couple of the things as we finish out, we are gearing up for the postseason right now. We'll launch the Coach's Edge once again when we get to April. So if you're a coach and you're listening, you say, man, how can I get more of this? How can I get the actual resources and presentations and videos and PDFs and breakdowns? Please reach out to me, contact@kramerbasketball.com, @Coach's Edge 1 on Twitter, and I'd be happy to share with you more of how we help serve coaches throughout the course of the year. And with that in mind, we're building out our summer and spring basketball camp schedule. All of our coach members get the added bonus of if they bring me in, they get a discount, a Coach's Edge discount for bringing me in for some of our summer camps, which is just one of those added bonuses. And a big thank you to all of our members who are really supporting me as we continue to build this thing. We're within just over a year of having the Coach's Edge being live. It's been awesome. And we're still actually in the baby stages of it. So I'm really excited to see where we are 5, 10, 15 years from now with the Coach's Edge, how much it's grown and how many coaches we're going to serve. And man, it's a good time of year. We have a high percentage of the teams that we work with within the Coach's Edge that have won a league title or in the hunt for a league title and looking to make a deep postseason run. So we're really excited for all of those coaches as well. And shout out to Coach Emick in Grand Haven, Michigan. Big win against Rockford. And I know that they avenged one of their only losses of the season by that win. That was a big one. So props to you, Coach Emick. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for listening to the Coach's Edge podcast. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. Have a great day. Stay safe. And as always, get after it.